$500-600 billion. And at this time, 10, 15 years ago, right, she bragged that she had no rival militarily nor economically. You can Google this. I'm not making this up. Google this. She said she had no technological peer, no military peer, no economic peer. And her stated doctrine was to prevent the rise of any nation or combination of nations to challenge her position. This is the truth. Anything that I'm saying is public knowledge. You can go Google this, right? With 500-600 billion plus the black book budget, roughly close to $1 trillion she was spending every year. Now, I want to put something on your mind that you never thought about. If she's decades ahead of everyone else, right? And she's spending more than the next 10 to 20 nations combined on her open book budget. And she's spending more than the rest of the world combined when you add her open book budget and her closed book budget together. She is spending more on weaponry, weapons investment than all of the nations combined. Why is it never enough? Why do they always have to have more each year? Right? And then when we say the emergency spending budgets, which are a couple $100 billion every few months, right? Why is that never enough? Look at what China has been able to do with the little that she has. Right? Not only has China built up her military and her economic capabilities, but China has also gone across China alleviating poverty. You can Google this. Contrary to Western reports, China had made inroads unlike any before, and which makes me want to shine something on you. Let's go back to 11 years ago. I think it's been that long. 11 years ago? It may have been 10 years ago, 11 years ago. But at the outbreak of hostilities in Libya, right? Prior to them demonizing and overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi, the World Health Organization had issued things for Libya, and also the United Nations were about to give Muammar Gaddafi an award for the alleviation of poverty and for raising Libya from being one of the poorest countries in the world to being the wealthiest nation on the Mediterranean. They were going to get that. But under French, US, and British pressure, the UN postponed that so that that cannot be presented as an obstacle for Western aggression against getting rid of Muammar Gaddafi, because he was hell-bent on removing all Western bases out of Africa and implementing the gold dinar, which would have overnight upended the euro and the US dollar domination around the globe. And all of the Western nations, which are considered rich nations, would have flip-flopped. The wealth would have been in Africa, because not only would the unified African currency would be around the whole of Africa, backed by gold, but also by the vast wealth of mineral and precious resources of the African continent. So they had to get rid of that. Now let's fast forward that to today. And remember, they demonized him as being a tyrant. But before we go further, they demonized Muammar Gaddafi as being a tyrant. But let's see what this tyrant did. He alleviated poverty. He paid for weddings. He gave married couples, I believe in US dollars, $50,000. He allowed any and every Libyan citizen to study. It was their choice to either study in Libya or study abroad. And if they chose to study abroad, the Libyan government would provide them housing and a monthly stipend as they go to college abroad. Also, there was free power. You understand? You didn't have to pay these power companies. There was free water, right? Free health care, right? And all of the citizens of Libya received a check from the oil wealth that was sold in international markets by the Libyan Jamahiriya government. Does that sound like a tyrant to you? Huh? I'm asking you, because sometimes we have to look deeper into what the Western picture is, because they only give us something to justify their policies. That's what happens. They give us things, they give us enough to justify their madness. Now, we fast forward it to, we can go to Syria, we can go to Venezuela. It's always a tyrant. It's always a dictator. It's, right? We go to Iraq. Saddam, when they got fed up with Saddam, when he changed and they were going to allow Saddam to continue in a fractured Iraq. But it was only until Saddam Hussein changed the peg of Iraqi oil from selling it in dollars to euros did Saddam be considered a threat to the world. And after he did that, and let me tell you this for those of you who are not aware of this, and America said that they only wanted to do right by the Iraqi people, but they haven't done right by black people here in America yet. They want to do right by the Venezuelan people by overthrowing the Venezuelan government, but they haven't done right by black people in America yet. Right? I'm just giving it to you real. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I have to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. This is why you see the uprisings, right? And on one of the shows, we're going to have some people to come on the show, and they're going to tell you about the hidden provocations, the false flag things that are going on, and how all of those fires that were set were not, most of the time, they were not set by black people. I'm telling you this now, and they have photographic evidence and stuff. We might bring them on about this, but you want to demonize somebody, and it's never the culprit. It's always the victims that are being demonized, right? But again, they want to bring freedom to the people in China, and yet they have an economic and political boot on the neck of those who have served in the military, who have fought in their wars, and who are just saying, listen, give me an equal chance of opportunity here. Don't block me, don't stop me, don't set up barriers, don't treat me differently, don't let the law have a blind eye when it comes to somebody of pale complexion. But when it comes to us, they want to go through the whole history, right? This is America. I want you to see America for who he or she is, all right? Because if you don't take a look at this thing, you'll be caught in the snare. We'll try to get, hopefully he'll get on. As a matter of fact, while I'm talking, you let me see if he's text me again, all right? So bear with me. This is live on air. As you can see, I'm on my phone, and I'm seeing if I have any text messages from him again today. Here we go. We'll see. Mail. Give me 1 second. He has not responded. Maybe he has. I see Mark Dankoff. I see him, 2 messages from him. I see, so it's hard for me to pronounce this guy's name. I see other people, but the last email, as you can see, well, I hope you can see from him, when he was telling me too, when he was saying he couldn't wait to get on the show. So I'm going to take it as maybe they're blocking him from getting on at this moment, because this is the last one. We conversed last night, and I said, we can't wait to have you on the show. And this email right here, he was like, he can't wait to be on the show. Me too. And that was the last conversation. But I sent them a link, another link, a fresh link to get on the show, right before, about 13 to 15 minutes before the show. But I didn't know that we would be having so many problems. They would disconnect me. They would mute me. I didn't know that today, but I should have expected it. As a matter of fact, I am broadcasting because they're all of a sudden now they're making my internet signals weak. I'm broadcasting through a hotspot on the phone now to make sure that I don't lose connection again, because this is what they're doing. And you're witnessing this. But again, this is America and her policies. I'm trying to get to some, because we've got to understand the stakes of what's going on politically. you've got to understand what is going on politically and geopolitically and economically. If you disconnect any of the dots, you will not get a clear picture of what is happening. Some of you just talk politics. Well, we need to vote. If you don't vote, you can't complain. And all of this stuff, that's madness. And we'll go through that. Maybe we'll get a chance to go through that. But as I said, I'm going to finish reading this, and point by point, I'm going to break it down and I'm going to explain something to you. So it says, at the UN General Assembly meeting on Thursday, U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos blamed China and the United Nations agencies for the murder of millions of baby girls and accused Beijing of subjecting the Uyghur Muslim community and other minorities to forced abortion, sterilization, and involuntary implantation of birth control devices. Now, bear with me for a minute. U.S. West. All right, there we go. Right here. Now, she said, now, if you Google this, I just want you to Google this. U.S. forced sterilizations. Just Google it. Okay? And you'll see that that's pot kettle action. And what's amazing is they can do this with a straight face. That's what kills me. And you, most of you, just go right along with it. You go right along with it because you don't understand what is going on. Period. You don't understand that we're in a economic, a political, a cultural, a ethical, a moral collapse of the social and financial order, the likes of which you have never seen before. I'm telling you this. The likes of which you've never seen. Got a message here. Maybe that's him. Let's go. Hold on one second. Let me see. Because if it is him, that was someone else agreeing to want to be on the show. I won't announce their name yet. But if he does not come on, if he does not get on, we will redo the show with him. Okay, or we'll try to redo the show with him. Maybe we'll get a chance to redo the show with him. But it may, and then maybe again it may be pressure. Okay, because one thing with me, you are not going to get any sugarcoating. I have to tell it like it is. So again, I said at the UN General Assembly meeting on Thursday, the U.S. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos blamed China and the United Nations agencies for the murder of millions of baby girls. Now, all one has to do is look at what's going on in America. How can you blame China for something that you're making up when we have videotape of you slaughtering people on camera? You're slaughtering them. People handcuffed. People in the back of squad cars, right? People that are running away from you and you unload 12 rounds in their back. And then you say, oh, they may have had a knife or your life was threatened. Or someone may come at you with a knife and there's 6 of you police officers with 9mm guns and tasers, but you choose to pull out your gun and unload 40 rounds on somebody. Right? Is that not genocide? What about the mass incarceration of Black and brown people in America? That is continuing today. And from this mass incarceration, you have the broken economic system in Black America. You have a broken moral and ethical system in Black America. What about that? Because there has to be ramifications of that also. I see you, Rashid, I see you. I'll bring you in a second. I see you. I just looked down. I just saw you. Because it seems like we're having problems bringing Mr. Ray McGovern in. But we'll keep going for a little bit, for about 30 more minutes to see if we can bring him in. And then we'll close the show out if we can, and we'll try to run it back again. Because, Rashid, if you're listening now, they disconnected me and they muted my mic and they blacked my screen and they disconnected the internet thing and all of this live on the air. Okay? They did all. I see you laughing. I see you laugh. They did all of that at the beginning of the show. One of the people who are listening to the show wrote no sound, and I'm thinking, and I'm clicking the sound button, and it's showing me that the sound was on, and then the sound would click off, then the sound would click on. It's just, to me, we've dealt with this before on the Star and Crescent Report, but let me get to something. There's a great collapse going on morally and ethically. Why America is always pointing out other people's faults, right? Jesus warned them about and since they say that they're the most Christianized nation in the world, didn't Jesus warn them about pointing out other people while they have that mote in their own eye? How about you get it together and offer economic recompense, economic restitution for those people who were robbed and deprived of. Matter of fact, as I'm talking to you, let me go to some. I want the people to see this here, okay? Because sometimes when you talk, people just, well. Now, I'm going to bring up something, okay? And I'm going to play a little clip of it on the screen here. Here. I'm going to bring, and I want you to see something. We're not talking about from 1555, because for those of you who are listening, I know that there's a 1619 movement out there talking about when blacks were first brought here for slaves. That is wrong. That is the wrong date. You have it wrong. I know what America has in her books, but if you do further research, the first slaves did not arrive here in 1619. The first slaves arrived on the shores of America in the year 1555. But because of the acts of terror and the unimaginable things that they did to the slaves, they try to write those 64 years out of history, right? So your movement has to be renamed from 1619. It has to be renamed to 1555. Because there was unimaginable, unspeakable things done in those 64 years. And they even talked about it in the halls of Congress. And that was the 64 years that it took to make a nigger. You understand? That's what they said. The first 64 years of hidden history in American with the American slave trade was the 64 years to make a nigger. So you need to go back and research before you come out with these movements, because some of your research suck. And no, please don't get offended, but a lot of you out here who call yourself wise, a lot of your research sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I'm going to tell it like it is. It sucks. So I'm going to play something for you, and then I'll try to bring this back up, okay? I'll try to bring this back up again. My wife was telling me she was on her way out the door to go to work. But anyway, so this clip here, let me stop the screen, and now let me bring. I'm going to play it now. Listen, I haven't heard the clip. I only heard maybe the first 6 seconds of it, but the headline of it is what should throw you. I'm not talking about from 1555 to 1955. I'm not talking about from 1555 to 1980 or 1990 or 2000 or 2000. I'm talking about from, and it's going to tell you this is recently, how much wealth was taken from the black community. You understand? I want you to, because a lot of you don't get this. In just a short period of time, think about if they took $16 trillion from you. 16 trillion. I didn't say 16 million, 160 million. I didn't say a billion or 16 billion or 160 billion. I didn't even say 1 trillion. I say 16 trillion. One of the estimates say, I want you to, let me bring this up for you. Okay. Here we are right here. Share the screen. Now you see right here, if you look down at the bottom, it tells you racism has cost black Americans $16 trillion since 2000, the year 2000. Now think about if you put that in parts of 20 years, because from we're in 2020. So if you go back every 20 years and you look at the institutional racism, right? And you do an adjustment for inflation. Think about if you take that back for every 20 years since 1555. and think about the wealth that was stolen from you just in that along the lines of that. Okay, this is something heavy that you should think about. So we'll play it, part of it, and we'll see where it goes. Pay close attention to this.